A New York Times interview with the president has produced gobs of red meat, and the Lions are feasting on two-way trolling, a Corleone-esque red line to Mueller, and tire marks down Jeff Sessions' back. The president didn't hold back, as deft interviewers now know how to tee him up for full effect. Without being combative, the New York Times writers posed questions to artfully maximize the impact of the president's statements. And he did not mince words. He hammered Sessions on what he described as his unfair recusal, and obviously felt betrayed when the AG backed out of the Russian swamp because of undisclosed conversations he had with their ambassador. Sessions is an authoritarian hack who has a deadly allergy to civil liberties, and it's terrifying he's head of the Justice Department. He wouldn't know justice if it sat on his lap, kissed his mouth, and said, "Hi, I'm Justice." I may disagree about the veracity of Sessions' pre-appointment vetting, and maybe the president should have asked some harder questions of a goofy loyalist before putting him in such an important position. But I can't help but fan the flames of discord between the two. So if Jefferson Beauregard Sessions III and his fifis, if they're hurt badly enough to resign, I will gladly accept that resignation on behalf of the president. You're welcome. When the trolling Times asked if the family finances were a red line for the president in the special counsel's probe, he said, yeah, pretty much.
I would say yes. Yeah, I would say yes. By the way, I would say I mean, it's possible that it's condo or something. So, I sell a lot of condo units, and somebody from Russia buys a condo. Who knows? I don't make money from Russia.
Well, that turned into the triple Lindy of troll flips, as Bloomberg reports that Special Counsel Mueller is now, of course, looking into Trump's family business transactions. Now, who knows if the whole thing was an oddly executed tantrum or some brilliant redirection on the part of the president. Either way, all sides get what they want. Detractors get to complain about the president's lack of decorum. The lazy press has some finger-looking good nuggets on which to munch. And Mr. Trump's most ardent followers are deeply pleased with his bravery and honesty. In other words, it's chaotic business as usual. On to the next scandal and on to the show. Glad you're here. I'm Kennedy. So after the dust settles, who's going to come out on top? The president, the attorney general, or the special counsel? Let me bring in my doctor-approved party panel tonight. From the Fox News specialists, it's co-host Kat Timpf, townhall.com political editor and Fox News contributor Guy Benson, and Right Strategies president Chris Barron, back on the party panel where he belongs. Welcome, everyone.
Absolutely.
Hey. So, Kat, I'll start with you. You think the president is being very disloyal to Jeff Sessions by calling him out in this manner in the New York Times.
Yes, you don't air your dirty laundry. You certainly don't throw your dirty laundry at a reporter at the New York Times. Everybody knows that. I can't imagine waking up to something like that and being Jeff Sessions. Why would he do that? I can't think of a single good reason why he would do that.
I know that he's offered his resignation in the past.
Yeah.
And I'm just hoping that this is the impetus that rolls the whole thing down the hill. And
right. I'm no fan of Jeff Sessions myself, as for the same reasons as you're not a fan of him.
Yeah.
But come on, what? I'm just very confused by it. Doesn't make any sense.
And you say it's unprofessional.
Yeah, but Sessions isn't going anywhere. He put out a statement. He had a press conference today saying, no, I'm going to keep being the attorney general. And then a few hours later, the White House puts out a statement saying the president has full confidence in the attorney general.
Full confidence.
Yeah. And it's like, well, he said...
He didn't sound very confident with those Times reporters.
He's like, I wish I had never hired him. Equals full confidence? It's odd, but I think if you're Sessions, people are saying, why hasn't he just resigned?
Yeah.
If the president slammed him this badly, I think part of it is Sessions knows Trump. He endorsed him early. Yeah. This is part of the deal with Donald Trump. He also knew that as the first
senator to endorse him, he was going to get a plum role in the administration. He knew that. I think Chris Christie and Rudy Giuliani thought the same thing. And guess what they didn't get? They're not attorney general, are they? Are these two wrong by saying that the president is unprofessional and disloyal?
Yes, they are. And look, okay, Trump's not a conventional president. So if you're expecting him to be a conventional president, like 6 months in, 2 years into this, good luck. He's not going to be conventional. So he's going to do a lot of things that people who are used to conventional presidents are going to be upset about. He's not Mitt Romney.
What about common sense, though? What about, he doesn't have to be like other politicians, but every once in a while he slips off the common sense.
I understand why he's upset. At the end of the day, if he would have known that Sessions was going to recuse himself for this, opening up this Pandora's box, I don't think he would have picked Sessions. And I legitimately understand why he's upset about it.
Do you think he asked him about conversations with Russia?
I don't know. I don't know.
Do you think he should have?
I think he should have, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you think part of that is the president's responsibility?
Sure, part of it is definitely his responsibility. But at the end of the day, I can understand, considering how this has turned into such a huge thing that the left has beaten the president over again and again and again and again. Yeah. I can understand its anger. The one thing I don't understand, and Kat, you're absolutely right, I don't have any clue why he talked to the New York Times about this.
Yeah, that's my question.
Absolutely not be talking about
That's the kind of thing where you instantly hit reply all and you're so humiliated. Right. You don't say it to the New York Times.
The failing New York Times.
The failing New York Times.
No, but that's the thing, and the Times totally trolled him.
Of course.
And the way they asked him questions, they were not combative. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they were anticipating the responses that the president
But let's also remember that, okay, so Sessions recuses himself, and we can debate whether that was the right decision to make. The next guy down on the depth chart is Rosenstein, the guy who eventually called for the special counsel, also appointed by Trump and praised by Trump. Yeah. So, I mean, he also bashed Rosenstein in the interview.
Right, because he didn't make Rosenstein AG. He picked Sessions to be the Attorney General. Yeah. Look, I understand.
He's still better than Chris Christie, but
should have had Rudy.
Right. Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah, so even temperamented. Well, we're going to see the panel a little bit later, but first up, some members of the president's inner circle headed to Capitol Hill. Washington Budget Office has given Senate Republicans some really bad news on their plan to repeal Obamacare without replacing it. According to the CBO, 32 million Americans would lose insurance by 2026. Premiums would double in the same time period, and 3/4 of Americans would live in counties without any insurers in the individual market. In other words, that's not very good news. But the CBO threw Republicans a bit of a lifeline with another estimate claiming that if Republicans added a replacement, it would leave only 22 million Americans uninsured. Now, as far as we know, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says he still wants to hold a vote next week. How fun for him. I don't think it's going to be very productive. It's unclear which plan he plans to bring to the vote. So what's going to happen here, Chris?
We're not going to get Obamacare repeal.
You don't even think we're going to get the repeal?
No, we're not.
Is it because of these numbers? Is this the spike in the vampire's heart?
Two reasons why. One, I said from the beginning that he should not start with health care. He should have started with an issue like infrastructure that the president cares deeply about, where he could actually forge some sort of bipartisan coalition.
I know, but we're here now. So where do we go now?
The problem is that these numbers like this have created a political nightmare for Republicans. And by the way, a lot of these Republicans we're finding out who voted over and over again to repeal Obamacare, surprise, they didn't actually support repealing Obamacare. Yeah. And so, look, we're caught in this quagmire. And every time they move the bill a little bit to the right, they lose moderates. Every time they move it a little bit to the center to gain those moderates back, they lose somebody on the right. I don't see a realistic path forward here.
So what do we do? I mean, I guess this is the issue that we ask every single night. Like, what do we do? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, doing nothing is totally unacceptable to conservative voters. This has been a key promise for 7 years.
Yeah.
There's been some potential movement on this today. A few hours ago, it was reported that Rand Paul, who's been really tough on this, saying he was going to oppose everything, he said he will vote in favor of the motion to proceed to bills if he's promised an upfront yes or no on clean repeal. And then he would be willing, apparently, according to reporting, to vote to at least debate this other bill, the Senate bill. That is a good development for Mitch McConnell. There's also questions now that McConnell has about $200 billion he's playing with to try to buy off moderates.
I don't like that at all. I agree with Jerry Moran, who complained about that very thing. I mean, that form of political prostitution is unacceptable. But you say it's a structural issue, that insurance is too high because of government involvement, and that's why so many people will choose to not buy insurance because they can't afford it.
Right. When you look at those numbers, you look at the reason people don't have insurance is because it can be too expensive. And there's also a huge difference between health insurance and health care.
Yeah.
Just because you got the little card doesn't mean that you actually have good care, adequate care, that people are, even everyone is going to accept it. So I think that we need to take a look at more of a patient-centered system than something like this, because when the government gets involved, it's no surprise that they can't really work it out, because they shouldn't even be doing this in the first place.
They shouldn't be doing this in the first place. She's absolutely right, and you know it. Party Panel is going to be back in just a little bit. But first up, after serving 9 years in prison, O.J. Simpson granted parole in Nevada. He will be a free man very soon. Geraldo Rivera on the ground with the latest. Stay here. The city of Baltimore back in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. And it could once again set community police relations back into the gutter. The latest incident involves body cam video. Well, that appears to catch an officer planting drugs at the scene of an arrest. We're told it happened in January. It shows the officer placing a plastic bag into an old soup can. 30 seconds later, the audio begins, and the officer says, "I'm going to go check here. Hold on." And then he magically finds the planted evidence. The officers in the video now facing disciplinary action as the case is investigated. Comes just a few years after the city exploded in violence after the death of Freddie Gray. So how might city leaders and folks in Baltimore react? The party panel is back. Katherine Timpf, Guy Benson, and Chris Barron. So here's the thing, Kat. You can be pro-law enforcement. You can be pro-cop and realize that something bad and wrong happened here.
Yeah, absolutely you can. And you need to realize that people in power have the power to take things away from you. They have power of you. They don't always use it wisely. This is really sick. This guy was in jail for months.
Yeah.
He didn't even do anything. The officer planted it there. There should be something that should be made up to him in some way. And of course, these heroin should be legal anyway, and then none of this would have ever happened.
Yeah, no, and it goes to your point, which is we have to investigate these things, but also body cams are a good idea for a number of reasons.
Yeah, they're a really good idea. And in this case, it burned the cop who, guess what, was doing something really awful and framing someone for a crime. And this really hurts, I think, public perception of police generally, which is such a disservice that this particular officer did to his entire community of police officers. This throws into suspicion so many other convictions and arrests where people say, well, thank God the camera caught him doing this time. How many times have cops gotten away with this with no evidence and framed innocent people? That is not true of the vast majority of cops, but bad apples like this really, really throw their whole profession into suspicion sometimes.
Yeah, and their department into conflict. I mean, Baltimore has had enough internal struggle between the citizens and the police, and it really does take one person to take a very sensitive situation and, you know, drop more kerosene on the campfire.
Absolutely, which is, by the way, why this guy has to be dealt with so severely. At the end of the day, like, they need to make an example of this guy. This is a tragedy on two levels. One, the people who have probably wrongfully been sent to jail as a result of this guy doing shady stuff like this.
How expensive is it going to be to retry those cases? Because now all these attorneys are going to be like, oh, wait, we have probable cause to go ahead and open up this case again and maybe sue the city.
Yeah, and even worse than that is the damage that it does to an already, like, fragile relationship between the community in places like Baltimore and law enforcement. It is unbelievable the amount of devastating damage that this one corrupt police officer has done. They got to make an example of this guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are from people who really like the police. I want to thank you all so much for being here. It's great to see you.
Good seeing you.
My goodness, the beauty and brains concentrated in this oval plexiglass. It would confound Einstein. Coming up, the list of Democrats who could challenge President Trump in 2020 is growing. Even some celebrities could throw their hats in the ring. Could taking a page out of the Trump book work for Democrats? Charlemagne the God weighs in next.